Hi there, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us in this webinar about Alfred, a fully integrated solution built on top of the Alfresco Digital Business Platform. My name is Daniela. I would like to share with you a few ground rules. Please unmute your microphone and please use the chat to raise your questions. We'll be more than happy to answer to all of them at the end of this session. This is the agenda for today. In the next 30 minutes, we will talk about the top strategic challenges that Alfresco customers may incur. And more importantly, how they are facing and how they are overcoming all these challenges. And we will learn the part of the solution, it's Alfred. We will take indeed a quick tour describing major components and the products that are the part of the service. Today's speaker is Ronnie Timmermans, CEO and co-founder of Zenith. Hello, Ronnie.
Hello, Daniela.
I will let Ronnie to take it from here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniela. So we wanted to build up this presentation starting from how do we understand the challenges and the issues at ECM. ECM is a formidable task to bring to a good end. So what kind of challenges have we seen? Well, first of all, if you look at some reasons, challenges on the ECM side is often they start off with large strategic objectives, but it stalls at some point. The unification and consolidation of content in a single platform is not happening always as we would like. User adoption often is one of the reasons why it's not happening. User adoption is not as we would like to have it. We need other experiences. And there is the dependency of all the legacy that's there, network, shared drives, all that information. So the more ECM we introduce, actually, the more information sources we end up with. And probably as the cloud is not going to help that by itself. We have those challenges. So what kind of strategy should we follow to improve that situation? Our analysis here from Zenith and the tools and the know-how that we're trying to build this, and you do that in function of the analysis that you make, is that the challenge is not really with the features. If you look at ECM systems, the more, let's say, old style systems like Documentum, FileNet, or the likes, or the new style ECM like Alfresco, very modular, performant architecture, is that they're all very rich with features. So it's not features that we're lacking. It's more like it's a human point, it's an organization issue, it's the resistance to change. Since Darwin, we all know that it's not the smartest or the strongest that survive, but those that adapt, and those that can adapt in an agile and fast way. If you don't adapt, you'll be disrupted. And that's what the platforms should support as well, to improve the business processes. Another challenge is substandard operational levels. It's when it's not about features, it's more about performance, availability, quality of service. It's everything that you add on top of the features that makes it really a very rewarding experience for system engineers, for architects, and for end users to use ECM as a platform. So we also think that the solution is not to remove all the silos, because there will be different sources of content, but to think about how you can seamlessly integrate them and leverage, of course, the digital business platform Alfresco for content and processes, and combine that with Alfred capabilities to make it a top-level experience on-premise as good as in the cloud. A good quote from OpenText. Their past generations of ECM implementations failed because they were based upon the idea that ECM is a destination and not a process. Actually, it is a process. You have to go in steps, and it's never done. You also have to adapt that new insights are there, your architecture and your business is changing. Businesses are being split, merged, new configurations are there. Architecture should adapt, and an ECM platform should adapt. It's not just, if you look at it as a platform, I think we're missing a point that it's a service actually. And that is what the cloud is learning us, because what is the power of the cloud is that we try to deliver all those services as a service with a service level agreement, with something that is not particularly software, but the effect and the objective of software. That is, I have content services and process services available. I have them available 99.9% or better at a performance of 3 seconds for all of my queries. That's the kind of expectation you have. That's the kind of thing that we should deliver, the result. And those services need to be managed. That's why they're called managed services. Now, if you look at what are our Alfresco customers, we have, of course, acquired a large number of those very important high-profile customers in the 11 years that we are in business. If you look at the top 5 challenges and how did we solve them with our customers, that would be, I think, instrumental and inspiring for further customers of Xenith and Alfresco. First challenge is there is a resistance to change and user adoption. And probably they are combined and they're linked. Users have an intuition of using the way of the path of least resistance to getting their work done. And they want to have an appealing, interesting and inviting interface to work with. So we have to improve that. The interface, as we show now, which is known from Sharon Alfresco, is being, of course, replaced by better, more modern frameworks. Well, let's look at the one that we like. That's the Alfresco Digital Workspace, which is available with Alfresco 5.2 or higher, based on the Alfresco development framework. What you see there is that Alfresco learns from material design, and we at Xenith do the same thing. Google has done extensive research on how should such a user interface look, how will user adopt it. And if you look like material design, you are already into that kind of using stuff, because Google has it in Gmail, it has it in all its tools, and Alfresco just blends seamlessly into the material design experience. Any application that you would build can follow that kind of same design principle. Needless to say that this interface is also considerably faster in user experience than the share interface would be. And that is what users demand these days. We don't have time to lose. We want to have a fast interface. If we look at our customers here, because ADF and the workspace are new developments at Alfresco, but we have been running with customers since a number of years. For instance, ATS already 3 years, is that customers don't always need a new interface. What we did there was just to embed the Alfred Finder, that's our variant of a user interface built upon React, while Alfresco's interface is built upon Angular. They're all great frameworks. The more frameworks that are important that we can support, all the better. So we work together to have a broader offering to the development community. Here, our React-based Finder was just integrated into the Guidewire system to handle claims. And that is what the customer ATS wanted. They did not want to have another user interface. They just wanted to leverage the user interface capabilities that we had and integrate that in their third-party systems. So in many cases, Alfresco is used in a headless way or integrated into other applications. Let's look at the second tip. That's New York City. There, another of our Alfred products was used, Alfred Desktop, because what we strive to do is make a user interface look as much as possible as the desktop that Windows already introduced. I think that product exists since 9 years. We have developed it a lot, made it very performant, very resilient, very responsive. New York City wanted to have this because it was almost a zero learning curve for its users. And that's why the adoption is there. We continue to invest in a desktop because it's not a bad word, desktop. It's just a rich client that uses all the features of the Windows operating system to deliver the best possible experience. As we followed Microsoft on the desktop, we follow Google in the web. And that's why you have this recognition effect. We don't have to educate people in a new style of user interface. We learn, adopt, and try to be as good as possible as a state of the art. Second problem next to the user adoption and user interfaces is the find and search experience, or the other way around, search and find. It's a challenge to get people to find the information they really need. We should not be content with just providing a list of results, but we should make those lists most relevant, most graphical, most context sensitive, as to really help people to find the information and just to not just to return a list of results. Where can we improve search experience? Giving smart suggestions, using the metadata. Often in the metadata model, you have business concepts. Let's say a case, a complaint, a customer, a file. Use those things to visualize results. Of course, scalability is always an issue. If you are looking in large repositories, we should strive that every query comes back in 3 seconds. So that's the benchmark. Why is that a benchmark? Google does the same. Your users and your customers do expect this. This is what the cloud imposes as a performance benchmark. Personalization and visualization. I think we can do better in user interfaces to visualize how results are relevant and make it more personal. If I then look at our Alfred Finder interface, what we should say there is that, first of all, we start from a search-first approach. One could say there is a cloud first, mobile first. In this case, our reasoning is search first. The first thing that we need to improve is not a browsing experience, but it's a searching experience. Where 10 years ago, people browsed through folders to find information, today you search information. And we can leverage those great metadata, which are so well supported by the Alfresco content services, with a very flexible and rich system. We can do much more actually to exploit that. Of course, if you look at such an interface, on the left-hand side, you have your filters, you have the paging, you have personalization. So what we allow in our interface is that you compose this with panels, and that you can flexibly drag in panels, drag out panels, make panel default configurations, and make it more personalized to your needs. So that's something that we want to have in the interface as well, personalization and adaptation. We will continue in our roadmap to work on this Finder interface and try to make the suggestions and the search bar extremely intelligent, so it can actually anticipate your queries and not just wait for you to fill in data. This is possible. Alfresco has in the backend the capabilities to do that, and Solar for sure. We had first issue, user adoption. Then we talked about searchability. Number 3 is, well, there's the infrastructure, the cost of upgrades and maintaining the platform. Very often, and this is a typical upgrade path of Alfresco, and there's nothing wrong with that upgrade path, but it shows the complexity and the challenges that you might have to upgrade. Having slow adoption of new versions of your software, of Alfresco, is an issue and a threat. Because Alfresco improves, it includes better versions of Solar. But if you continue to work with version 3.4 or 4.1, you don't benefit from those things. And then we say, well, there's a problem with Alfresco scalability. That's not true. You have to upgrade. But of course, how can you do that in an easy way? Because this is the situation, isn't it? when you start, there's one system that you interface with, and maybe you only have Alfresco content services, but later on activity and Alfresco process services add, and then you integrate with portals, with Guidewire, with billing centers, with ERP, with CRM, with SAP, and all in a different way. And you get a lot of interfaces and a lot of things to verify and to do testing upon when you do an upgrade. So what we believe is, and that's also what PNV brings as an insight, is that the situation on the left-hand side, which I would call a more like spaghetti type of architecture, should move more into a lasagna type of architecture in which you have layers. You have a layer of your business application, you have a layer of an interface, which talks to the backend, which talks to Alfresco, to activity, and Alfred brings edge, and that's a gateway, and that's what in a modern cloud-based architecture, either you run it on AWS or on Azure, but you can also run it on premise, but that's the capability that you need in your architecture. Just a remark, we would be taking questions after the presentation, but we will be having time to answer your questions, if any. Challenge number 4, so challenge number 3 was, how can I build a reference architecture, and we call that the Alfred reference architecture, to ease the pain of upgrades, to have a continuous upgrade process, as we have it in the cloud. Number 4, lack of scalability. You have an extract, and that's very much simplified of how the Alfresco architecture was at PNV. PNV is a customer for 10 years, and this, without any modifications, without new insights, without a new program, that's more or less the situation that will organically grow into such a complex organization like PNV. You have the mainframe, part of their business is on the mainframe, part of their business is on new systems, on Linux, on Windows. They have front and portals interfaces. They have inbound and outbound processes with Captiva, Isis Papyrus. There may be different products, but they all do the same thing. They create documents and they consume documents. And then you have the desktop in which people that make that do the underwriting, that handle the claims, etc., they need to interact with the documents and with their systems. So this creates a more heterogeneous landscape with CIMS, API calls, SOAP, supported until version 4.2, even web scripts, and anything that you would like as interface. To go from this situation, and it still looks quite orderly, but in practice, it looks more like a spaghetti. Again, you need the layers there of the lasagna. You have your business applications, you have a layer, your gateway layer, and then you have the underlying content services. You need this to get your internal architecture more towards an agile architecture, so you can make it evolve. You have a controlled API, so you know what to test, what to verify. And if later on you have the challenge of interacting with partners and with internet users, again, you can leverage the edge gateway to do that in a secure way. So what you need is a few layers on top of Alfresco to control input, output, and to run it as it was in the cloud. On the left-hand side, you see inflow, and that's our offering, part of the Alfred suite, to have high volume daily processes, not particularly for migrations, but daily processes under quality of service, injecting documents into Alfresco at a high rate. Alfresco is not slow, though, of course, many of our customers are attentive to performance and would like to have a better performance even. And I think it's due to, one, there are a number of factors in Alfresco, and the experienced partners and software engineers around Alfresco know that you can tune it, but you need to have the know-how. And secondly, there are a number of factors outside of Alfresco. And it is to make it stable, high available, and very performant, you need to control the input and an output into Alfresco. And that's why we state performance is a balance, like quality of service. Why is it a balance? You could optimize the performance of writing documents into Alfresco, but then do you take away the quality of service for your interactive users? What you need to do is to balance the resources and to create the best possible quality of service to Alfresco. And that's why you need a layer that kind of separates the outside world from the core content and process services of Alfresco. When you want to optimize that, as we know, a basic engineering rule is if you need to know what's happening, you need to measure and you need to trace what's happening. Is that part of our offering to improve the performance of Alfresco is Alfred Ops, and that's the stack. Those are tools that many partners know and many engineers, Grafana, Kibana, getting the log files, but also using your gateway to trace all the calling. You collect all those data, and with those data you can learn not just to diagnose, not just to make a, let's say, first aid plan when you have a problem with Alfresco, but also to proactively look at the performance of Alfresco and intervene and modify such that you keep that service up and running at a very high availability and with the best possible performance. There is no way than to measure. And in the future, you can imagine that this thing will feed data into some machine learning, some artificial intelligence, which will help to deduce the right rules of keeping Alfresco up and running. So that's a kind of automation on the operations of Alfresco. But operations is, of course, super important, because the development of a process or a project is 6 or 12 months, but the operations are 10 or 20 years. And every day something can get wrong. And once you are in production, it's stress. So you need to focus on that and get that really right and keep those customers very, very happy. So those were the top 5 challenges. We talked about the user adoption. It's not simple, but we bring ADF desktop Finder solutions for that. We talked about searching. Finder will, and today it's already, I think, a good implementation, but it will be much better even, much more intelligent in terms of typing suggestions and those things. We are on a long way to make the best possible search experience, but that's what we want to bring with Alfred Finder. The cost of upgrades, that's a matter of architecture. So Alfred Edge intervenes, Alfred API. Scalability, okay, that's an Alfred and an Alfresco thing. That's combined expertise. And performance that needs monitoring, tweaking and tuning, and love and care every day. Let me do a quick tour here on the suite. I'm not going into the details of the product. We have 30 minutes. We don't have that time, but here is like a very high level overview of the architecture in marketing terms, but to show what we bring here. First of all, there are graphical user interfaces to bring clarity. Clarity, searching, productivity for people and for systems. Systems use an API, people use a graphical user interface. We want to deliver both, so to have the best possible experience. Those people and systems talk to an API gateway where we will expose the most simple business API, business ECM API possible. We want our customers not to go too deep into CMIS or very low-level API calls. We want to expose and create a business API for users, for systems. You talk to them and it's very high level, it's stable and it's versioned. That gateway and API will then talk to the internal API of Alfresco to do the best possible job of getting the job of the system or the user done. We have the monitoring, you can see that on the right-hand side, and we also have an offering for storage. Actually, when you want to have something like S3, which is very known at AWS for storing scalability, if you want to have that on-premise, we have a partner product which is called Caringo Swarm, and we have built the interface to that. And it's a pretty neat object storage system that allows to scale, which is used at PNV and MNT and ATIAS, for example. So we're getting to the last part of the presentation. What would customers get from Alfred? Very important slide here is, software as a service. That's when you take it from the cloud. Well, we want to have a managed service as a product. We want to productize, standardize, make it better at lower cost, because that's what the product is doing. Huh? It's not reinventing the wheel every time. We make the same wheel. We try to adapt it to customers, create managed services. So you have a service level agreement with clarity, performance, uptime, security, and we can productize that. Secondly, we want to deliver that by ourselves or by our trusted partners. We want to work together with a number of select partners of Alfresco to combine all that know-how and to create a network of excellence. And Alfred, as a product line and as a service, is a driver to get that. So we can deliver with that partner network the best possible experience, and people and the customers just love to stay with Alfresco. One thing is to get them using the Alfresco Digital Platform. The other thing is keep them happy over the years, even when they scale, even when they have elasticity needs, keep them happy. So work together with a network of partners, develop that interface, which is Alfred, interfaces users, people, and processes with the content of Alfresco to interface that and do that in an excellent way. On the left-hand side, Alfresco at the core, Alfred around it. On the right-hand side, it's the effect that we want to get. Service level agreement, availability, 98%, that's just entry level, I think. It should be 99.9 or better. We have customers today that want us to create zero downtime, but really zero downtime contracts, even in maintenance, should be done while operations is going. So that's the challenge in the future, and that's what the cloud also delivers. And next to that, we pride ourselves in performance. We want 95% of all queries to return results within 3 seconds or better. Why? That's the new norm. That's the new normal. That's not amazing. That's how it should be. I have 2 more slides. That's Alfred in a nutshell. Very fast through that. We deliver 6 qualities. That's clarity of interface, agility by architecture, high availability, performance of the service, governance by metadata. I'm not going to step in that. ABAC means 4-letter word, attribute-based access control. It's a different way. It's an additional access control layer that you can put on top of the standard role-based access control of Alfresco. And the 6th quality is security by gateway. If you have a gateway, you can easily connect partners and internet users into your Alfresco infrastructure. Last one, typical business cases. If you scale up your Alfresco to have 1,000, 10,000 or more documents per day flowing in, if you want to increase the integration with the cloud, back office services, if you want to have business critical real-time behavior, if you are going to integrate much more and interact with internet users, with partners, so you have an open company that will be more and more working in a network of companies and not just in isolation in your own intranet. If you want to leverage the cloud as an archive, for instance, and have your operational Alfresco on-premise, or if you want to outsource and automate much more of the system administration work, that's what the partner network of excellence and Xenit with Alfred want to deliver. And okay, those are the top 6 values. I think we talked already about them. Huh? Performance, availability, clarity, that's clear. I think that responds also to our agenda, the 5 points that we wanted to cover, which brings us to questions and answers.
Thank you, Ronnie. So any questions so far?
I think we may have a question from here in the room.
Yeah, I would like to raise a question. You have described Alfred as a solution that can help to make Alfresco more scalable. and provides higher quality of service on-premise. But what about Alfresco in the cloud? Can Alfred help that in the same way?
Yes, that's an excellent question. It can, of course, the same capabilities of having a gateway and doing more caching and all those things will also help in a cloud-based installation. It's of course different because looking at AWS, you have elasticity, etc., of the infrastructure. But the same qualities on-premise can be applied on the cloud. You will have to adapt your architecture because cloud computing is different. But what we want to do there is to make sure that the qualities that you would have more, in a sense, more natively in the cloud, that you can just have them as well on-premise. There is no reason to have a substandard system on-premise, but you need to add all those elements that create that kind of quality of service.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have one follow-up question. You said that you provide managed services as a product almost. Could you elaborate a little bit on that? What do you mean?
Yeah, the idea is that as we are like 12 years in business with Alfresco, we have learned a lot on the typical problems that you encounter. And the solutions that you build for those typical problems it's also a learning process. You can actually productize them and package them. We know what kind of parameters you have to follow up when you are trying to tune Alfresco. We know what kind of typical, let's say, symptoms you would see from a system that risks to become less than optimally performant. We bundle all those things. Alfred is a reference architecture. Talking about the lasagna versus the spaghetti, it's a reference architecture. It applies some of the cloud principles. It's a set of tools, but it's also know-how. But those things can be productized. That is, package them, standardize them, tweak them a little bit to every different customer, but try to reuse a lot of those insights, put them into your architecture in your components, and then be able to deliver that as a service level agreement, which is happening through software components and people. So I think that's, we continuously learn and we try to optimize all managed services and automate it as much as possible. And that's the final goal, actually, to have less human intervention and more automation, also in system engineering.
Any other questions? All right, I think so we can close this webinar here. You have a different channel that you can use to talk to us. You can send email to sales@zenith.eu or visit our page on the website, connect via our social. So, and thank you again for joining this webinar.
Thank you.